What if the foundations of the nation you live in, and maybe even your own rights, were completely different from what you've always believed? Okay, let's unpack this. So today we're doing a deep dive into some, well, pretty fascinating, sometimes unsettling claims. They come from our source material. It's an interview with a self-identified World Bank whistleblower, Karen Hoods.
Hmm.
And the core idea, she asserts there's a secret U.S. Constitution. And this apparently has huge implications for every single citizen.
Yeah.
Our goal here is really to pull out the key nuggets of, knowledge and insight from her perspective. We want to help you understand exactly what she's claiming and why she thinks it's so important.
And what's fascinating here is just how bold these claims are. I mean, they really suggest we need to rethink everything we thought we knew.
Totally.
But as we go through this, it's really important to remember what we're doing. We're just presenting the information impartially, focusing only on what the source, what Hoods actually says.
Mhm.
We're not taking sides here. The idea is to lay out the material so you can look at it and form your own conclusions.
Okay, so let's start with Karen Hoods herself. She says she's a whistleblower from the World Bank.
Right.
And her main claim, it's a big one, the United States, she says, isn't operating under its original constitution. Nope. There's apparently a second secret constitution that was instated.
Instated. Wow.
And get this. She claims Congress keeps it going by reintroducing a state of martial law every 2 years. That's what keeps this secret constitution in effect, according to her.
That's quite a claim right off the bat.
Yeah.
And the alleged purpose of this secret constitution, she gets very specific.
Yeah.
She claims it dictates that your tax dollars, they go straight to paying interest to the Federal Reserve, not, for roads or schools or anything public.
So wait, if tax dollars aren't funding the government, where does the money come from?
Well, this is where it gets even more controversial. Hoods claims the country's finances actually come from the poppy fields in Afghanistan and the drug trade.
Wow.
Yeah. And the interviewer in the source material, they picked up on this, connecting it to the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, asking her how that fits in.
Okay, so this secret constitution, Hoods must have some kind of historical story behind it, right?
Mm.
Where does she say it came from? Here's where it gets really interesting.
Right. She weaves together a whole historical narrative.
Go on.
It starts, she claims, with President Lincoln's assassination. She says it was by a Jesuit, specifically to stop Lincoln from issuing greenback dollars directly from the Treasury.
Why?
So banks could keep earning interest on U.S. currency. That's the motive she gives. And this, she argues, paved the way for the Second Constitution.
When did that happen, according to her?
1871, which, she points out, was exactly when the Revolutionary War debts fell due.
Huh.
And she adds this anecdote. She says she personally received a financing statement for those debts. And with interest over time, it had ballooned to trillions of dollars.
Trillions.
Yeah.
So did the interviewer ask for, proof? How do you back up claims like
Yeah,
that?
they did. Yeah, she offered two main things. Okay.
First, she mentioned the minutes of the meeting of the patriots who met and looked at the State House records in Carolina when that secret constitution was enacted.
Okay, meeting minutes.
And second, those financing statements for the Revolutionary War debt she talked about receiving, that's her evidence.
All right, so let's follow this logic. If this secret constitution is real, as she claims, what does it actually mean for people, for you listening?
Yeah, the implications she draws are profound.
Yeah.
It starts, she says, with your birth certificate and social security number.
How so?
When a child is born, gets a social security number, she claims their estimated lifetime tax contributions are calculated.
Okay.
And then, here's the kicker. Hoods says the birth certificate itself is issued on the capital markets to earn money, like a bond.
Issued on the market. So
Mhm.
what does that do to your legal status?
This raises an important question, and her answer is maybe the most startling part. She argues that because your birth certificate was pledged, when you enter the court system, you're not seen as a U.S. citizen.
Not a citizen?
Then what are you?
A debtor. That's the term she uses. And then she goes further, saying Americans have been converted from human beings that are citizens of the Republic of the United States into cattle. Chattel.
Chattel.
Chattel. Like
Not property.
Exactly. It's a legal term for property. She claims citizens are now considered property of the Federal Reserve, not actual human beings with inherent rights.
That's incredibly bleak. So this system, she says, it just strips away your rights.
That's her claim. It takes away all of our rights, especially in court. She says judges are secretly treating us as if we are property of the United States, handling individuals as just a thing that exists to service debt.
Wow. Okay. So this secret constitution, it's not like a piece of parchment in the National Archives then. What is it?
Good question. She explains it's not a document in that sense. It's defined by the Act of 1871.
The Act of 1871. What was that?
That's the act, she claims, where Maryland and Virginia created the District of Columbia, that square mile.
Okay.
But the crucial part, Hughes says, is that this act incorporated the United States as a company.
A company.
Yeah.
Like USA Inc.
Essentially, yes. She claims it made the president the chief executive officer, the CEO, and members of Congress became managers.
So government is a business.
Right. And she alleges that new members of Congress are quickly taught that their constituents aren't the real priority. The goal is getting on the dole of the federal government, which she says is all designed to enslave the people.
So it's really more of a corporate document than fundamentally changing how government relates to people, especially in court.
Exactly. That's how Hughes presents it. And this corporate structure, she argues, prevents individuals from actually protecting their rights in court because the judges, they're not sitting in what you call a court of equity.
Court of equity,
Yeah.
like a court focused on fairness.
Right. Instead, she says, they're handling you as if you're a person who's just servicing the debt of the United States. You're there as a thing. This idea isn't unique to Hughes. The whole U.S. as a corporation thing pops up in certain circles, but she really centers it in her claims.
Okay, so if this is the situation she's describing, this pretty grim picture, does she offer any way out? What's her proposed solution?
She does. She has a vision for how to fix it. She outlines steps for you to reverse that.
What are they?
First step, we recognize it. We understand it. Awareness is key.
Makes sense.
And second,
We have that constitutional convention, which is our right under our first constitution.
an Article 5 convention.
Seems so. The goal, she says, is to repeal that banker's constitution, the secret one, and then issue new treasury dollars backed by the gold out of the collateral account that has been offered to us.
A constitutional convention.
Hmm.
The interviewer brought up some worries about that, didn't they?
They did, yeah. Quite
Okay.
significant concerns about an Article 5 convention.
Like what?
Like the potential for money powers to hijack the process, the
Yeah.
fear that basic rights from the Bill of Rights, freedom of the press, Second Amendment, you name it, could be weakened or even evaporated.
That sounds like a pretty serious risk. How did Hoods respond? She pushed back, called that concern evidence of a corrupted media. She argued that any recommendations from a convention would still need approval. They'd have to be voted up or down by 34 of the state legislatures.
Okay, so there's a check and balance there.
But the interviewer offered a counterpoint mentioning the 16th Amendment, the income tax one, and how money powers historically influence things despite ratification challenges.
Right.
And Hood has kind of ended that part with a direct challenge, really, to you, the listener. She said, take a good look at whether we have a second secret constitution and whether we in the United States have the wherewithal to throw off those shackles. And if we don't, we deserve them.
Wow. Strong words. Okay, so despite painting this really dark picture, you mentioned she seems optimistic, and she's clearly been fighting this fight for a while.
Yeah, it's quite a contrast. She details a lot of personal effort. It started with her work with other World Bank whistleblowers, like an Ela Colville from Scotland. That led to a statement that got posted on the UK Parliament website. And in that, she made some big claims,
Such as,
like capital markets being completely controlled by this conglomerate. She put numbers on it. 40% of assets, 60% of earnings of traded companies.
that's huge control.
And she accused the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, of not enforcing insider trading laws and not demanding honest audits of the World Bank from KPMG, the big accounting firm.
So she's taking aim at major institutions.
Absolutely. She talks about going to the Serious Fraud Office, the SFO, in the UK back in 2010. She bought a World Bank bond just to have standing to complain.
Did it work?
She says the SEC couldn't be bothered and added they brought us Bernie Madoff. So not much faith there.
Okay.
She also answered questions for the UK Parliament about their money in the World Bank, said there was no supervision, the place was going to the dogs, criticized privatization efforts, saying the privatized supervisor did a lousy job, same assessment for how they handled complaints, lousy job.
So a lot of activity internationally. What about here in the U.S.? Has she engaged officials here?
Oh, yes. She mentions writing to and speaking with members of Congress, General Martin Dempsey. Even Chuck Hagel, when he was a senator.
Whatever.
She talked about a power transition model, some kind of predictive model, apparently, that warns of a currency war if the U.S. loses its allies.
And she thinks they listened.
She claims these officials are completely aware that the country is at a fork in the road. And her optimism comes from believing that enough citizens are also aware of this model, and they're demanding of their government that we take the high road.
Interesting. So she thinks public awareness is building.
Seems so. She also mentioned working with the National Taxpayer Union blog and trying to engage local officials like her county executive in Maryland, Ike Leggett. She's hitting it from multiple angles.
It's definitely a multi-pronged effort. And her view isn't that the original Constitution failed.
No, that's key. She sees it more as a failure of humanity or failure of leadership. The original framework is sound, in her view, but it's been subverted. And she keeps coming back to that fork in the road idea. She does seem genuinely optimistic that the machinery will work to reclaim the republic, but she doesn't downplay the difficulty. She calls it an immense cleanup job.
Especially with the legal system.
Oh, yeah. She says the legal profession is seriously broken and thinks bar associations should not be responsible for licensing attorneys. She wants fundamental changes.
Okay, so after all this, the secret constitution, the corporate government, the fight, what does she advise people, you listening, to actually do right now?
She has a couple of very practical, immediate recommendations.
The first one.
The first, and she stresses the urgency, is go out and buy silver and gold coins.
Physical silver and gold. Why?
Because, she claims, Federal Reserve notes, dollar bills are basically toilet paper. She calls them valueless and unconstitutional.
That's a strong statement about the dollar. Does she give a reason for that urgency?
Yeah, she points to the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. She says they're already moving away from the dollar for international trade. They're no longer paying for their international trade in dollars, and governments globally are no longer holding the Federal Reserve notes as reserves like they used to. That's her justification for recommending gold and silver now.
Okay, so that's number one. Protect your assets. What's the second recommendation?
The second is more collective. It's a call to action. All work together to clean up the mess.
Easy to say, harder to do, maybe?
Well, interestingly, she adds that she thinks it's not that hard, actually, to get our republic back. That optimism again, and she ties it to something bigger. She believes the fate of the world is riding on whether we have remained a liberty-loving people. It's a call to civic virtue, really.
So what does this all mean? I mean, this deep dive into Karen Heed's claims, it's a lot. A secret constitution, citizens as property, the U.S. as a corporation. It definitely leaves you with much to ponder.
It really does. It challenges so many basic assumptions about American government, about citizenship itself. And it really brings up a critical question for you listening, doesn't it? We live in an age just saturated with information and counter-information, competing narratives. How do you figure out what's true? Especially about something as fundamental as the documents and systems that govern your life.
Right. How do you sort through it all?
And then what responsibility, if any, do you feel? If claims like these, even if they seem way out there, suggest your rights and status might be totally different from what you thought, do you feel a need to dig deeper? Or push for change? It's a heavy set of questions Hereda's perspective forces us to confront.